Hey, Kyle is wonderful here again with another wrestling review. This time it's MLW Major League Wrestling Fusion, episode number 150 from June 23rd, 2022. And full disclosure, this will be the first episode I review of MLW. So if you're longtime watchers of this show, it has been around for 20 years now. You definitely might say like, oh, this guy might not know what he's talking about. But I have been doing my work. I did a lot of research while I was watching the show today, and I also watched the previous like three or four shows, and I have caught a couple episodes here and there and heard news here and there throughout, but I had never actually sat down to watch a bunch of shows in a row. And I've been definitely excited for the big battle riot event that I've been hearing about. So that's what kind of got me into it. Actually, last night on June 23rd, I am taping this on Friday morning, but last night on June 23rd, Thursday night, MLW actually taped that big battle riot event. So I can't wait for that. MLW usually has one event a month where they record all their fusions out of. They usually make 4, sometimes 5 episodes out of those uh, cards they have once a month. So after 2 months in a row in Dallas, we've got our last week was our first in Philadelphia, and these tapings are for Kings of Coliseum, which they advertise it for June 14th will be the Kings of Coliseum event this year. So looking forward to all that, and definitely looking forward to that battle riot. It should be out in about a month. Try and avoid spoilers if you can, because it just happened last night, and the event should be out in about a month. So last week was a pretty big episode of MLW Fusion. There was a three-way match in that one for the MLW World Tag Titles. Hustle and Power retained. That's Calvin Tankman and EJ Ndoku, or Nduka, sorry. And they retain against the Von Erichs, Marshall and Ross, and 5150, where Rivera called up Hernandez Supermex for that match. So big title retention last week. We also saw the first ever featherweight champion crown, that is the women's champion, and they sometimes call it the women's featherweight champion. But I think what MLW is trying to do is not have the word women in there, which they can't help themselves sometimes. But the first ever MLW featherweight champion was crowned. Taya Valkyrie forced Holiday to tap out. So, or Holidead, sorry, it auto corrected it. But Holidead was the opponent for Taya Valkyrie. Pretty good match last week, and Holidead had to tap out. So Taya Valkyrie currently holds the AAA Reyes La Reyes women's title, the MLW featherweight title, the Impact tag team title, and she recently showed up in NWA and might be taking on Camille for her NWA title. So Taya Valkyrie's just the female belt collector throughout the Americas. I'm not, I like her, but she's not my favorite either. Um, Nothing personal, of course. So another big episode this week, following that big episode last week. We've got the world middleweight title on the line in a three-way between KC Navarro, Arez, and then the champion Myron Red. So that was KC Navarro, Arez, and Myron Reed. And then last week we saw Reed. He actually accepted Davey Richards, gave Reed an invitation to join and come train with Team Ambition over in St. Louis. So Reed took Davey Richards up on that opportunity and seemingly trained all week with Team Ambition coming into this match. And then the big main event for tonight is a Weapons of Mass Destruction match, the first ever in MLW history. And this is between Mads Kruger and Jacob Fatu. A few weeks ago, we also saw Fatu destroy, I think they call him Cesar Cueto, but I know him as Dario Cueto. So I'm new to MLW, but Lucha Underground was one of my favorite shows ever. So I'm just gonna call him Dario Cueto. But a few weeks ago we saw Fatu. He destroyed Dario's office, and he's also got a new 500-pound friend who's Tongan, and I think he called Juicy. So that's something to think about. But we did not see anything about those two things in this show. Um, but that's something I've seen in the last couple of weeks. Anyway, Fatu, through Trojan horse type tactics, took out the Contra faction that Mads was a part of. And then there was a three-way match recently where those two were also going for the world title against Hammerstone. They were way too busy fighting each other, Fatu and Mads, so they could only focus on each other. Then they had a Stairway to Hell match, which wasn't enough to settle things. So now it's led up to this Weapons of Mass Destruction match. in tonight's main event. So, like I said, this is the second show from the Philadelphia tapings, and on July 14th will be the final one. The graphics showing all the 20 years of history is a great way to start all these shows. You get to see the many faces and legends and voices from legendary people in the business that have been through the MLW roster. So we get a video package, the hype, the weapons of mass destruction match later. We hear Mads talking about how he wants to destroy the traitor Fatu. Fatu's yelling around that he's the one that made Mads, and we see Fatu trashing Dario's office, like I was talking about. We get highlights of that Stairway to Hell match, and then the video ends with Mads saying that he will end this once and for all. So, if you haven't seen Mads Kruger, he's basically Lord Humongous from the 1980s Memphis wrestling scene, who was played by many people. I think the most famous being Psycho Sid, but he talks like this because he's a bad guy and he wears a mask. So he actually pulls it off, I think, better than like 99% of wrestlers would if they were given that. Recently, we saw Veer Mahan trying to do the Lord Humongous voice on Raw, and it was freaking terrible. So I will say, as cringe as it kind of is, Lord Mads pulls it off better than most people. So we go to our announcers. It's Joe Dombrowski and former NXT announcer Rich Bikini, and they'll call the action tonight. Rich was known in NXT as Rich Brennan, if you remember him, and he's been with MLW since 2017. And oh, sorry, Green Tom, I'm doing good. I missed your message. And yeah, he was Rich Brennan in NXT, and he's been with MLW now since 2017. He's also called matches in Booker T's Reality of Wrestling in the past. And Joe Dombrowski, he's worked for AAA and ROH, among others, in the past. He signed with MLW about 8 months ago. And Joe Dombrowski is also a writer for the show, a booker, and an on-air official. So, as well as being an announcer. At least that's what Cage Match said. He didn't seem like an on-air official in this. I know Dario's like the owner or whatever, from what I can tell. So I'm not quite sure on that one. Any long-term fans want to comment on anything I get wrong, so I don't make mistakes going forward in the future. I will continue to cover this show. I really enjoyed tonight's show, by the way. I should have said that at the beginning. But yeah, that's all the accoutrements out of the way, and let's get into the action. We see Myron Reed, who is again the middleweight champion, and he's in the back getting ready for his title defense. Davey Richards walks in, asks Myron if he's ready. Myron actually stumbles over his very first word that he says, which I didn't write down what it was, but this isn't live. They could have taped that again, right? Like they could have re-recorded so he didn't stumble over his first freaking line. But just a little nitpick. I got a few nitpicks throughout the show, but nothing major, and I enjoyed the show. And I'm definitely going to come back for more. So anyway, Davey tells Myron to let the other two fight because remember, it's a triple threat match. Davey wants Myron to let those two fight and then take advantage when he can, once they weaken each other. Then Davey kind of loses himself staring into the Myron's middleweight title, and Davey quickly leaves after that and says that he has an idea. So we're only 1 week into this new alliance between Davey Richards and Myron Reed. It already looks like the tensions are high, and I'm pretty sure Myron noticed that Davey was staring at the title. He kind of ponders over everything that just happened, and then we go back to the arena. Rich tells us that the Boombaye Fight Club have a press conference later, and the national openweight champion Alex Kane has something on his mind, so he'll be there with Mr. Thomas later on. The middleweight title match will be the first match, so our Rez is out first. He's accompanied by the rest of Strange Sangre, and that's Gangrel's faction. He's got Dr. Dax, Holodead, and Mini Abismo Negro with him. So they're all out here to accompany Arez in this big triple threat title match for the middleweight title. Really cool look on Arez. Really cool. Casey Navarro's out next. His momentum's high after beating the real one, formerly known as Enzo Amore. And Casey Navarro's outfit hurt my eyes. It was like bright watermelon colors. And then the world middleweight champion, Myron Reed, is out last. He's a 3-time champion. And the announcers say his title reigns combined is almost at 700 days if you combine the three. So big time presence in the middleweight division for MLW. And Myron last defended and successfully against Swerve Strickland of all people, now in AEW. And he's also beaten TJP, Tajiri, Bandito, and Matt Cross, the former um also known as Son of Havoc from Lucha Underground, is Matt Cross. So a who's who of people that Myron Reed has beaten. And get this, Myron Reed is only 25 years old. So definitely the future of the whatever you want to call it, middleweight, light heavyweight, junior heavyweight, X division. They all go by different names but mean the same thing. I didn't even say cruiserweight out of that list. So that's what the middleweight is basically. When the bell rings, both Arez and Navarro super kick Myron out of the ring. So Arez and Navarro go to battle, and this is exactly like Davey Richards predicted. We'll have to see if because here's the perfect opportunity. Remember, Davey Richards told Myron, "Let those two fight and then come in." But what does Myron do? Myron immediately gets back in the ring and doesn't take Davey's advice and goes back to the fight. So we get a great dive by Myron Reed, jumping over Navarro but landing onto Arez on the outside. So that was awesome. Really good pass faced action with some big strikes. Too fast for me to write down every single thing they did. And definitely go check this one out. Myron's taken out while the other two fight, but Myron keeps trying to join. So he keeps having the opportunity to follow Davey Richards' advice and isn't following it. Myron breaks up a pinfall attempt with a springboard 450 splash that looked nasty. The impact was so big that Myron almost did a front flip once he landed. So the force of the landing made him like jump up again, and he almost did a flip, which I don't think was supposed to happen. It made it look really cool, really impactful. And that was just to break up a pin attempt. So that was pretty cool. We get many near falls, and all three are definitely looking to end this as quickly as possible. Navarro then hits a tope con hero and takes out Arez and the rest of his crew on the outside, the rest of the strange Sangre crew. Myron then hits a cutter on Arez and then immediately slams Navarro onto Arez with a nasty white noise. That was a great looking move. Myron then pins Navarro off of that and wins. Only 6-minute match here. Really quick pace throughout. Definitely a well spent 6 minutes if you want to check this match out. I should have mentioned earlier as well, you can find MLW Fusion for free on the MLW YouTube page. So all these matches and stuff, every episode of Fusion is for free on YouTube. And then, like I said, Myron Reed retains his title in only 6 minutes. Arez and Holidead are both failed in back-to-back weeks for title opportunities. Remember, Holidead had an opportunity to win the featherweight title, but lost to Ty Valkyrie last week. So Gangrel must be getting a little bit mad about that. And Rich then goes over to interview Myron. Myron shouts out Davey for having him come train in St. Louis. But then Rich asks Myron if he wants to fight Davey for the title next. Myron gets angry about this question and storms off. So um, Rich is an asshole for asking that for sure. Man, I was going to try not to swear on these. Apologies for that. And we're told this season of MLW will conclude with the Kings of the Coliseum on July 14th. And later tonight, we'll find out the main event for that show. And if you've been following the show, I've only been following for a couple of weeks, but I've followed enough to know exactly what that main event will be. But I'll wait till they announce it later. We get a Mads Kruger video now. He says that everything will be weaponized tonight. He was born into this. Fatu will beg for salvation, and he will leave Fatu's body as a pile of ashes. So, intense promo from Mads here. They'll be in the main event, like I said, in the Weapons of Mass Destruction match, the first ever in MLW. Now it's time for that Boombaye Fight Club press conference. Alex Kane and Mr. Thomas come out looking pretty cool, and they've got unfortunately, I like this segment. They cut a good promo, but this promo is almost ruined by constant clicking of cameras because they're trying to act like the paparazzi and the press are there for the press conference. So they're all talking for over a minute, and you just constantly like, click, 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 click through the entire like 1 or 2 minutes. It was driving me insane. But this is a good promo. Mr. Thomas comes out and says that all we want is a good fight, but we keep getting the ACHs and Calvin Tankmans of the world. Uh, and they say that they need an incentive to bring out some better challengers. So Alex Kane decides maybe we need a name for a competition against me, and he decides on, since we're in Philly, the Thrilla in Philly. Now, if you didn't quite get what he meant by this, the Thrilla in Philly is a play off of the Thrilla in Manila, which was a let me just put it this way. So the name Boombaye, so remember they're the Boombaye Fight Club. The name Boombaye comes from the Bantu language in Africa. And during Muhammad Ali's boxing match in Kinshasa, Congo, that name might ring true to might sound familiar, but yeah, Boombaye comes from a Bantu language in Africa, and during a Muhammad Ali boxing match in Kinshasa, Congo, back in the day, the crowd was chanting Ali Boombaye, which means Ali kill him in their local language. And that's exactly why Shinsuke Nakamura didn't get to keep the name Boombaye for his finisher, and they changed it to Kinshasa instead, which was the city they were in, instead of the local language for kill him. So that's why that was changed. But Boombaye, they use the name here with the Boombaye Fight Club, which is really cool. And now to tie it back into the Thriller in Philly, since their name already is tied into Muhammad Ali, they used another Muhammad Ali thing, which was the Thriller in Manila was the third match of an epic trilogy between Smoking Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali, and one of his greatest fights ever. So that's where all that comes from. If you didn't care about that, sorry about going on a tangent. But anyway, going back to here, if you remember, Alex Kane says, well, we need to name this competition. So since we're in Philly, it's going to be the Thrilla in Philly. And Mr. Thomas says, well, if anyone can last 20 minutes with the champ, they get $5,000. Alex Kane isn't happy with this and says, our budget is way up now, so they up it to $20,000 for anybody that can last 20 minutes. You don't have to beat the champ; you just have to last 20 minutes. So that's what we got out of this press conference. And again, the whole time they had the click, 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 which was really annoying. So now back in the arena, we have one half of the tag team champions who are Hustle and Power, and this time it's EJ and Duca out, and he'll join commentary for this next match. EJ says that the tag team division is getting hot, and that's why he needs to see this next match. So Los Maximos are out. That's Joel and Jose Maximo, aka the SAT, aka the Spanish announce team. You might find them familiar, especially if you're an old school TNA fan like I am. They've been around for over 20 years in TNA, ROH, and MLW, so they're big time MLW legends. Just recently making their return, and I didn't even know they were still wrestling, to be honest. And they were in TNA like during the original pay-per-views, so they've been around the block. I think at least one of them, maybe both of them, are cousins with the Amazing Red, who's one of the most innovative wrestlers of this generation. Anyway, SAT slash Los Maximos, as they're called here in MLW, are out. And we see a recap of last week when Hustle and Power and Los Maximos had a big brawl. And this was after Calvin Tankman was thrown into Los Maximos, who were sitting ringside. I think they were acting like they were the Spanish announce team, but they didn't have many microphones. Anyway, after that recap, Los Maximos are all up in EJ's face, and EJ tells them that you don't want none of this, and they go back to the ring to get ready for the match. Already in the ring is the team of Jaden, Valo, and Chris Cage. The announcers say that these are young guys from the Northeast of USA. They have matching outfits with like fire and lightning that look pretty terrible. But then I look it up. Jaden is young. It's cagematch.net says that Jaden is 23, but Chris Cage is 37, so not exactly young there. But yeah, they're both from New York City, and Bold James, aka Bold Dempsey in NXT. I'm probably one of only 1,000 people in the world that own a Bold Dempsey from NXT t-shirt where it says Bull Fit on the front. But anyway, he's the one that trained Jaden, and Jaden does a great looking tope con hero at the beginning of this match, but gets caught by one of the Maximals. So then the other Maximo dives from the ring to the outside, hitting like a diving missile doomsday device, and then also that Maximo landed on Chris Cage, who was the one that wasn't on the shoulders. So crazy move there just to start this match. Chris then hits a big spine buster, and then as that happens, the announcers tell us, "Oh, there's commotion in the back," and we go to a split screen. Calvin Tankman, who is EJ's tag team championship partner, has been beaten up, and I couldn't quite get a good look at who did it. Maybe some of you that are more familiar with the product knew exactly who it was when you saw him, but I couldn't tell who did it. But a man is walking away from the crime scene, and EJ runs to the back immediately to go check on his partner. So then the announcers say that Jaden is 21, so either he or CageMatch.net is wrong. So I don't know what his real age is. We'll say 22 and split the difference. But yeah, Jaden shows off some nice lucha libre, and there's no way Bull James taught him that lucha libre. So definitely getting some training elsewhere. Double team moved by the Maximos now. It was an inverted Alabama slam that really just looked nasty. It looked like you can easily knock someone unconscious with that move. They go straight from so they did that on Chris, and then they go to Jaden the legal man and hit the famous finisher of the Maximos slash Spanish announce team, the double Spanish fly from the top rope for the pin. Los Maximos get the big win here, and that was the MLW OG's homecoming match. So they've been around. They did return a little bit ago, but I think this is their first match since coming back. So Rich goes over to interview Los Maximos now, and Rich mentions that we're looking into what happened with Calvin Tankman. The Maximos say that we don't care about Tankman. It's all about Los Maximos, the SAT. They want the titles, and it was a pretty terrible promo. So they have not improved their promo abilities in 20 years because I remember them in the original TNA. Anyway, now we go to a dark room, and there's a flashlight searching around. So the flashlight eventually finds Gangrel, and I think he's there with Mini Abismo Negro, and we see or we hear Dario's voice, and he says, "I understand you have some problems with Microman," and Gangrel just hisses at the light being in his face, and Dario says that we'll take out Microman once and for all next week, and I kind of hope they do because I don't find any value in Microman personally, but I heard that Microman signed a big contract when he got in so recently, so damn on that. But yeah, Gangrel only does nothing but hiss, but he does do a um, slash across the throat signature, basically saying that he will take out Microman. So the first ever Weapons of Mass Destruction match in MLW history is next. And before that, we get a video package. We've been seeing this for a few weeks now. It's just Killer Cross, and he's with Scarlett and Killer Cross, aka Karrion Cross from NXT. And he's saying TikTok. And this video's been playing for a few weeks. So I wonder when we'll see Killer Cross. Then we're told on July 14th at the Kings of Coliseum 2022, the main event, to the surprise of nobody that's been watching, is Alex Hammerstone versus Richard Holliday for the World Heavyweight title. The former friends have been battling recently, and Richard Holliday pinned Hammerstone just a few weeks ago. He did cheat and hit him with an illegal object, but it was Hammerstone's first time getting pinned in about 3 years, the announcers tell us. So Hammerstone is now on Zoom or something, either Zoom or whatever from Phoenix, it says, and he's going to respond to this match and being announced. And Hammerstone says that this is a long time in the making. This is Holliday's chance to prove all the things he keeps saying, right? Like it's his chance to prove it. But I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just going to take out months of frustration on you. So that'll be the big match on July 14th. And then a few weeks or after that, we'll find out who wins the battle or the battle riot. And the winner of that gets a title shot at any time they want. So now that's how Hammerstone was the winner of the battle riot last year, and he was able to beat Jacob Fatu. So we get a recap of Taya becoming the first ever MLW featherweight champion last week. And then we're told next week in trios action, it'll be Strange Sangre, which is the Gangrel group. So this will be Holodead, Arez, and Abismo Negro. I think Mini Abismo Negro, but they make him look huge in the little picture. So maybe it's a bigger one. And then they're going to team up to fight Lince Dorado formerly of WWE, Taya Valkyrie, and Microman. So that should be an interesting match. Hopefully, Microman isn't in too much and they destroy him. So it's now time for the main event. It's the Weapons of Mass Destruction match. The rules are that there is no time limit. You can win by pinfall, submission, or surrender. Ringside area is weaponized and fortified with military grade equipment, and there's military cases strewn about containing mysterious weapons, and anything goes is the last rule. So this should be crazy, and it definitely is. Mads Kruger makes his way out, and he's waving the Contra flag. And he's wrestled on the Indies for years as Logan Creed. He actually had 3 matches in MLW as Logan Creed, starting in 2019. And then when he switched over to Mads Kruger, many of the fans recognized that it was Logan right away. But that was a little bit ago now. Jacob Fatu's now out. He's the first cousin of the Usos. His dad is the Tongan Kid, and the Tongan Kid is brothers with Umaga and Rikishi. So Jacob Fatu's out here, and he also joined MLW in 2019. He beat Filthy Tom Lawler for the MLW heavyweight title 5 months after his debut. And Fatu actually held that title for 2 years, but unfortunately 8 months of that was during the pandemic where there was no shows. But still, a 2-year reign for Fatu. He made 11 title defenses over that, eventually losing the last year's Battle Riot winner Hammerstone, like I was saying, and that was back in October. So Fatu was part of this Contra faction during that title reign, and has since then basically destroyed Contra from within, which is why Mads Kruger is all mad at him and wants to eliminate Jacob Fatu. Fatu storms out right away for this match and throws a chair at Mads. So definitely this is going to be a crazy one. Mads tries to dive out of the ring, but Fatu hits him in the head with a chair. And damn, I don't see too many chair shots to the head anymore. I mean, I was watching ECW and stuff in the 90s, so I've seen it all. But now that I know how much damage it causes to the brain, it's always like, ooh. But yeah, big chair shot to the head here to Mads. Fatu then opens one of those cases that are supposedly contain mysterious weapons. Well, there's just a kendo stick inside, so kind of anticlimactic on the first one of those. Fatu then tells the cameraman to watch the F out so he can swing the kendo stick. That was pretty funny. One thing I've noticed in MLW is they have a really annoying beeping sound for when anybody curses or swears, but for whatever reason, Fatu, I've heard multiple times say the F bomb. So apparently Fatu's able to swear, but every other time people get beeped, and it's the most annoying beep of a swear I've ever heard. It's like it sounds exactly like when my Bluetooth is low on battery, but it really super loud. It's like 10 times louder than the actual like guy talking. So somebody, if anybody knows who runs stuff at MLW, tell them to change that damn beeping noise for when they swear. Anyway, going back to this match, we got a lot to cover here, and Fatu has just gotten the kendo stick. Remember, he also gave Mads a big chair shot to the head. So we're just starting out here. After the kendo stick stuff, Mads then goes over to open a case and he finds 2 batons or nightsticks in there. They look more like batons. And Mads dual wields the batons, but only for a few seconds and drops them. I don't know why. And that backfired because Fatu's able to take control right after that. Fatu sets a crate up on the apron, but doesn't open it. And then hits Mads with another chair shot to the head. So Mads is now bleeding a little bit from the top of the head from those chair shots. And the announcers note that there's a giant box to the side. So announcers are pointing us to some giant box. That must be the climax. Mads opens that crate that Fatu set on the apron. So why did Fatu set it there? Just to not open it? Who knows? Inside of this crate is some kind of powder that Mads throws in the face of Jacob Fatu, and the announcers start coughing at the powder being up in the air. So really selling that this is some weapon of mass destruction type deal. So Mads then goes for, oh god, I forgot about this part. Mads goes for a power bomb off the apron into a table on Fatu. However, Mads' grip slips as he's getting Fatu up. He's unable to complete the move. He has to drop Fatu. Fatu pretty much lands on his head. There was a little bit of a table to break his fall. The table did not break. Fatu landed on like the side of the table, so it might have broke a little bit, but only on like the corner. And man, that looked terrible. Mads really literally dropped the ball there. And luckily, Fatu didn't like break his neck. As far as we know, he was able to keep wrestling after this for a while. But yeah, this match almost got stopped in the early on with Mads dropping Fatu on a power bomb. He lost his grip. Anyway, Fatu, the ref has to go check on Fatu at this point because it did look really nasty. Fatu rolls in the ring and he's holding his neck. Mads uses this opportunity to go get a gas of gasoline, a lighter, and a war club. And the announcers call it a um, South African war club, but it basically just looks like Finley shillelagh. So to give you an idea what it is. And we see that the case that had powder in it, the camera goes up and it has a piece of duct tape on it written on the duct tape is the word anthrax. So apparently it was anthrax thrown in the air, which of course it wasn't, but that's pretty funny. Um, Fatu then slaps the ever living bejesus out of Mads twice. So clearly, Fatu wasn't supposed to be dropped on his head there. It was supposed to just be a regular power bomb through the table. And Fatu is definitely mad about it. So he gets a little bit of receipt. Just you can see later on the side because Mads does wear a mask over most of his face, but he has like his very side of his cheeks, kind of by his ears, are exposed as well as the rest of his bald head and stuff. But yeah, you can see that right by the ear and the cheek and the neck, super red from these slaps that Fatu was super pissed about being dropped on his head. That so good, good on you, Fatu. He could have ruined your career, man. So anyway, after these big slaps, it's starting to heat up a little bit here, and Fatu hits a big spear. So Mads of course, there's a lot of no selling in this match. Mads then blocks a war club shot. So Fatu got the war club, but Mads is able to block it, and then Mads hits Fatu with the war club. So Mads lays the Contra flag on top of Fatu, pours some gasoline out and on the flag and on Jacob Fatu. And Fatu is able to get up before Mads can light the fire. They start battling in the middle of the ring with regular wrestling moves at this point. That doesn't last too long, but a bunch of moves are hit. Fatu is able to hit the alley oos, the pop up Samoan drop, but Mads gets right up. Then Mads hits a Panama surprise out of nowhere, the jumping off the middle rope into a Canadian destroyer or code red, however you want to call it. The move that Adam Cole does. So did not see that out of the near 7-foot Mads, but he did pretty good on that move. Fatu's able to no sell that and get right up. So that's the kind of stuff we're getting here. Fatu hits a nice springboard moonsault to BME, but Mads is able to roll out of the ring after that. Fatu hits a dive to the outside and then lays Mads onto a stretcher, like a gurney on wheels, like a stretcher type deal, and hits him with the Contra flag, like the pole that the Contra flag is on. Fatu then puts on rubber gloves and pulls out a roll of barbed wire. So now we're really we've got teases of fire, we've got anthrax, we got now barbed wire. So um Fatu places the barbed wire on top of Mads, who's laying on the stretcher slash gurney, and Fatu then does the big Uso splash, the Samoan splash, off the top rope to the outside onto barbed wire, which is laying on top of Mads, which is laying on top of this gurney stretcher thing. The stretcher doesn't give at all. This looked very painful. And also, what's the point of Fatu bothering to put gloves on to handle barbed wire to then just dive on top of it with his chest slash torso? So um pretty crazy stuff all around here. Like I said, the stretcher gate that didn't have any give when the he's got to be over 300 pounds. Fatu lands from the top rope splash. Fatu, it's definitely. I should have mentioned this if you guys aren't familiar with the product, but Fatu is definitely more of the body shape of Umaga and definitely reminds me of Umaga more so than these much smaller Usos. So I should have mentioned that earlier, but yeah, that thing didn't give under all that weight. That is one strong gurney. Um, then we get the Mads gets in the ring and puts a triangle choke on Fatu. So these guys are just no selling everything, even no selling almost a broken neck for real. So um, then we get two masked men, and they bring Mads a ladder. So Mads Kruger has a ladder, and the announcers tell us that Mads Kruger has been wanting to reform Contra in his own image. So we're to assume that maybe these are two new members of Contra. They're in hoods, wearing masks or whatever. More so the hoods. Like it's not like a lucha mask. We just don't see who these people are. But yeah, they set up a ladder in the ring, and Mads orders the two men to take apart the ring ropes, which they start doing. So here's the scene: we've got inside the ring, we've got a ladder, a table, two chairs, and a lighter, and then we've got these guys trying to take the ropes off, but they end up not getting the ropes off, but taking the tension away. Like, so you wouldn't be able to like run off the ropes. There's no tension in them anymore. So pretty crazy scene here. Fatu's able to fight back and gets another chair shot to Mad's head. Mads tries to land on a table for right after the chair shot. Mads tries to like carefully lay on the table, and Mads is also like 300 pounds, and the table just breaks. And that was supposed to be the big spot to end the match. So, yet some more table spots gone wrong in this match, but they make the best of it. Fatu does the Uso splash off the ladder, um, just not through the table anymore, just to a regular laying down Mads. So, that big Uso splash off the ladder was indeed the finish. That was the 1, 2, 3. The referee counts. Fatu wins a very ugly match, but pretty entertaining nonetheless. I'm glad he didn't break his neck, or hopefully he didn't. I have no idea where the two maxed men went. What was the point of trying to take the ropes off and then stopping and then leaving? Plus, they teased that big box earlier and we never saw it. So, right on cue, as I'm writing that down in my notes, Mads wakes up and takes Fatu over to the big box, even though Fatu was the winner. Fatu's able to counter this and push Mads to the box while opening it, and shoves Mad's face in it while there's light and smoke coming out of this box and special effects. And Mad's face is all up in it. Fatu leaves Mads hanging in the box and holds Mads' mask up. So Mads Kruger has been unmasked and thrown into whatever kind of secret weapon or whatever kind of craziness that he just got thrown into. So, wow, I'm guessing we're either going to see an even crazier version of Mads going forward, probably forming a new Contra with these two masked men from earlier. Either that or Mads Kruger is dead. The character of Mads Kruger is dead. And maybe this guy will come back and play a third character on MLW. Maybe he'll never return ever. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing where this goes, and what the new Contra might do in the two masked men, and is Mads dead. So all that's pretty cool. Plus, Fatu has he's got his new 500-pound Tongan Juicy as a friend, and those two took out Dario Cueto's office. So we've got that storyline to look forward to as well when it comes to these two. But yeah, Fatu's on his way out. He licks the mask of Mads Kruger, which was super gross. And I don't know why he did that. Someone in a hazmat suit comes out to help Mads, and the show ends. So maybe the hazmat suit guy was just a referee or an official of MLW, but maybe the hazmat suit guy will be part of this new Contra. Maybe he was one of the two Max men from earlier, or maybe he's a third member of a new Contra to come. So we'll have to keep our eyes open. I'm sure we won't see anything from Mads or the Contra for the next couple weeks. And after that, we'll have to see if Mads Kruger is officially dead, if he comes back as an even more horrifying monster, or if that guy playing it never comes back to MLW. So we don't know what's going to happen, but that's a good way to leave a show off, not knowing what's going to happen. So they did announce a couple things for next week. I can't quite remember everything, but the biggest announcement tonight is that Hammerstone will fight Holiday for the world title on July 14th. And let me see if it was the big trios match next week. It's going to be Microman teaming with Taya Valkyrie and Lindsay Dorado, and they'll take on the Strange Sangre trio of Holodead, Arez, and Abismo Negro. And I think it's Mini Abismo Negro. But yeah, that's I think the only match they announced for next week. So like I said, we've got um what is that? A couple more weeks, and we'll have the big title match between Hammerstone and Holiday, and then not too much longer after that, we'll get to watch the big Battle Riot event that was taped yesterday. So a lot to look forward to in MLW, and I'll definitely be back for next week. Again, let me know if I made any mistakes or anything. I am a little bit new to the product. I tried to do my research and watch for the last 4 weeks and stuff before I reviewed, but definitely I'm open to suggestions. The other shows, and definitely check out some of the other shows I have on the channel. I've been reviewing Raw, SmackDown, NXT, NXT UK, as well as New Japan, Impact, and NWA. So I've added MLW to the list, and I'll see if there's any more shows. I'm thinking about Reality of Wrestling, but Booker T seems to kind of be off the deep end lately. So maybe I'm not going to give his show a plug. But yeah, let me know if I need to do any improvements or if I made any mistakes on the MLW stories that I was trying to explain. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.